We turn our attention to this story now. The business model of the footwear company Drip has come under sharp scrutiny as its financial troubles continue to make headlines. Questions have now emerged around why or how the indebted company could be saved. Gauteng Finance MEC Lebogang Maile has indicated that he will be requesting Reserve Bank Governor Lesetja Kganyago to intervene in a bid to rehabilitate the local company. The footwear brand faces a 20 million rand debt bill. This has also resulted in a Johannesburg-based company applying for its liquidation and a foreign exchange blunder with the central bank dating back to 2021. Drip owner Legao Sehoane has acknowledged the brutal lessons learned from these woes that have characterized 5 years of the sneaker brand's existence.
We have to be able to look at stores and areas that we are actually making more money and focus a lot there. There's a new business that we just launched right now. It's called Sneaker Outlet. So Sneaker Outlet, it focuses more on the lower LSM, township malls, rural malls as well, and then we sell discounted products. So that's where we also want to turn around, because Drip is not a retail brand. It's actually a sneaker brand. But now we just branched into retail right now. And then this new business is going to help us in being able to sell the products that we can't sell at the Drip stores, but at discounted prices. So that is our strategy right now, actually going forward.
Independent business analyst Sinesipho Maninjwa joins us now to discuss this case study further. Thank you so much for your time. It's not necessarily too complex, but I think our starting point, Sinesipho, would be defining what is meant by Drip took too much too soon, the likes of advertising stores in the shopping malls of South Africa. How much of this could have been the indicators of a business that would soon sink?
Thank you so much for having me on the show. So I just wanted to preface by saying that the purpose of starting any business is to drive revenue and sales and to drive growth. And sometimes in the pursuit of top-line growth, we sometimes forget the operational background, also basis foundation that a business actually requires. I don't fault the strategy of driving growth at all costs. What I do question is the ability for growth to stabilize and also to set up the correct architecture as well as business infrastructure to help you navigate things like your compliance, financial management, as well as overall risk management. I think those were, in the earlier interview that were highlighted as key weaknesses, which has resulted in the company now being in this current position.
The big talking point is whether it should be saved, how that is going to take place. And we did hear from the owner of Drip just a short while ago this afternoon, talking about a program of continued expansion. What do capital investors look for here in terms of how they get their hands on a turnaround strategy that is going to be lucrative?
So first things first, the business is currently facing several applications of liquidations. It has its assets frozen by the Reserve Bank, and it's also had challenges regarding its landlords on the basis of non-payment of rent and also other issues. So before we can even have a discussion on expansions, I think the critical thing is that the business needs to stabilize. It needs to stabilize and enter into some compromises with its primary creditors before it will even look to expand. It is of my belief that it is the incorrect strategy to push growth while your house is burning, in a sense. And I do respect the entrepreneur very much in terms of wanting to drive growth and expansion at all costs. But the house is burning, and not recognizing the position you're in is not the correct position, I believe. I do understand the need to want to grow, and investors, even investors who are looking to invest as well as put in capital injection, they want to ensure that there is sufficient controls and oversight within the business that they're actually putting their money in. And unfortunately, there's been a demonstration and evidence of lack of internal controls, specifically as it relates to financial controls within the business. So it is one of those things where an investor looks at the fact that, yes, you've got a great product, very good brand, but it's still very much a startup. It's faced a lot of headwinds. There's been positive headwinds, but there's also been negative forces, and it boils down to internal control. And you, as much as a business may be growing and thriving, you can't invest in a business where you've got people asking for their money back. You, like I said, it's a very, 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 very difficult challenge, and there cannot be an expectation to sort of inject money without dealing with the crises at hand.
Let's go back on that note to the issue around foreign exchange control regulation, where the SARB and that case is concerned. We earlier termed it as a blunder in our discussion with the DRIP owner, but is this a norm, or it is a common mistake that a startup business would make when dealing with foreign trade?
So first of all, I think we need to also understand DRIP's business model. DRIP itself, it does not manufacture any of its products in South Africa. It manufactures in China and then imports the products and then distributes it here in South Africa amongst its retail footprint. So fundamentally, its business is the purchases, because you don't buy products in rands, you purchase them in dollars and then sell them in rands. So I am not convinced of the blunder nature. I do not know what goes on in the business, but it can't be a blunder because of the simple fact that if you look at the statement that was provided by the Reserve Bank and the reporting thereof, they clearly state that this matter was under investigation for a period of 2 years before they made the decision to freeze the assets. And this was, so in that 2 years, you can assume that the Reserve Bank would have engaged with the company. Investigations don't happen in isolation. You are not investigated in isolation and then suddenly your assets are frozen. You are informed because you have investigations, and institutions such as the Reserve Bank, also other notable institutions such as the SARS, do believe in engaging with the party itself in order to make sure they get all the facts, in order to not say, no, it's a blunder. They want to make sure they get all the facts correctly. But like I said, I'm not convinced it was a blunder because it is a 2-year investigation process. There's no entity, you don't get investigated in isolation. How would they know how much to freeze? How would they know where the bank account details? They get all that information from you.
As a parting shot, Sinesipho, we've come to a point where the Gauteng Finance MEC's office is involved or maybe making calls for this business to be saved. Can it tangibly be saved, and why this particular entity?
I'm not going to comment on why the entity. There are lots of entrepreneurs who are running businesses and have had challenges with the regulators, and they have unfortunately not had the benefit of having a whole MEC in the richest province in the country advocating for them. So I don't know why the MEC chose this specific business. Secondly, I also want to say that we need to understand that entrepreneurship and the growth of entrepreneurship and driving youth unemployment as well as employment in youth, women, and etc., is an important driver of economic growth in this country and should be promoted. However, the law is the law, and consequence management needs to occur in this instance. I do not believe that it is fair to advocate with one business over the other, and they should actually comply with the regulators, and they should pay all that is due to their relevant creditors and also to comply with the regulator. It's absurd that they should find themselves in a position where they should be advocated to not comply and not adhere to our country's laws and regulations. It's absurd, and I do take note of the fact that it is very much a young business driven by a young man who's an incredible entrepreneur. But unfortunately, the law is very, 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 very clear. Rules and regulations are there to protect the consumer and all stakeholders, and you should comply. And that's, I think, the founding message is that you should comply. And what I think anyone who's seen the extravagant nature of how the entrepreneur chooses to live their life should also factor that, like, why should they be protected? they should comply, and they should get sufficient advice, professionalize their business in such a way that these mistakes are not repeated.
Thank you so much for your insights. That is Sinesipho Maninjwa, independent analyst there.